Welcome to the Kimberly Guilfoyle Show, live on Rumble, where facts come first and where news is done right. And we lead off today with more developments surrounding the tragic, senseless, and sickening school shooting at a Christian school in Nashville, Tennessee. Because we are now learning in a new report from the Daily Mail that the shooter, Audrey Hale, was undergoing counseling with the school pastor whose daughter was killed. More on that coming up. And it comes as authorities have released the harrowing body cam footage showing the horrible individual killed by the heroic Nashville officers entering the school, running towards danger and taking out the shooter. Viewer discretion is advised. Take a look.
Keep pushing. Go. Shots fired, shots fired, shots fired. Move. Right. Push with LPVO. Push with LPVO. Go right. Move! Watch out. Move. Stop moving!
It is tough to watch, but important to see so we understand exactly what goes on and how quickly they responded and they acted. The actions of the officers are nothing short of heroic. And the video shows you just how dangerous and just how life-threatening the work of a police officer can be on any given day of the week. In just minutes, those officers rushed into the building, took on danger head-on, and took out the shooter and secured the school building. And also today, we continue to remember the victims who lost their lives. The victims have been identified as 9-year-old Evelyn Decos, 9-year-old Haley Scruggs, the daughter of the pastor of the church who runs the school, and 9-year-old William Kinney. So upsetting that this has happened, but we do need to learn from it. And let's not forget the adults. Mike Hill, who was a custodian at the school, Cynthia Peak, a substitute teacher at the school, and Catherine Kuntz, the headmaster at the school, who reportedly actually ran towards the shooter after hearing the first shot. We continue to pray for the victims' families and the entire Nashville community. But sadly, some elected leaders, along with their allies in the media, are instead using the tragedy to fuel more division and to attack their political opponents. For example, here's Joe Biden being asked about the shooting with a bizarre and disgraceful, nonchalant response. Take a look.
You believe that Christians were targeted? I have no idea. Josh Hawley believes they were. What do you say to that? Well, I probably don't that.
Where is Biden's compassion or concern for this tragedy? You heard him. He literally laughed off the question. But sadly, it doesn't stop there, because some media outlets were actually concerned about, quote, misgendering the shooter. For example, the USA Today tweeted, quote, police on Monday afternoon said that the shooter was a transgender man. Officials had initially misidentified the gender of the shooter. Here's a message from the USA Today. Nobody cares what an evil mass shooter's pronouns were, but it's gotten even worse because the press secretary for Arizona Governor Katie Hobbs actually shared an image of an armed woman in a tweet attacking, quote, transphobes and appeared to be threatening violence. The press secretary, Jocelyn Berry, has since resigned following the post. And then yesterday, there was this exchange inside the U.S. Capitol where far-left Congressman Jamal Bowman shouted down Republican Congressional Thomas Massey. Take a look.
In a school that allows teachers to
Carry guns? You think
Would you
more guns
co-sponsor-
lead to more death?
Would you co-sponsor
More
that?
guns lead to more death.
Would you co-sponsor
Look at the
that?
data. You're not looking at any data.
No,
You're
they-
carrying the
no.
water for the gun lobby.
No.
Look at the data.
I'm
More
carrying
guns
for
lead
the
to more
kids.
deaths.
For the kids.
Guns,
For
states
the
that have
kids.
open carry laws have more deaths.
In every school that
States
allows
that
carry,
have open
there's
carry
never been a
laws
shooting.
have more deaths.
There's never been a shooting.
Are you listening to what I'm saying?
Yeah, calm down.
What?
I
Calm
want you-
down. Children are dying.
I know, I've got a
9-year-old
solution.
children.
I've got a
Because the
solution
solution is
for
not
it.
arming teachers.
That's
Have you ever
worked
worked in a
every
school?
In
Have
every
you ever
school
worked in
that's
a school?
in every-
Have you ever worked in a school? Have you ever worked in a school? It's a yes or no question. Have you ever worked in a school? You will not answer my question. Don't stop and talk to me. Okay, I'll bring it down a notch.
All right.
Have you ever worked in a school?
I've got a bill to repeal.
I worked in the school for 20 years. I was a teacher. I was screaming before you came and interrupted me. I worked in the school for 20 years. I worked in the school 20 years. I was a teacher.
Ask yourself, why are so many on the left so eager to spew more hate and rage following such an awful tragedy? Why not remember the victims? Why not work towards a solution to secure schools and harden soft targets? And why not take a moment to find ways to build a better future for our children in the aftermath of an evil mass shooting? It's unfortunately all just more evidence of the politics of division and the politics of personal destruction, no matter what the story is. But thankfully, there are great American patriots who are working towards real solutions and care about protecting our nation's schools. It is such a pleasure to join right now on this program a man I admire greatly and proud to call my friend, Andrew Pollack. His daughter Meadow was killed in the 2018 Parkland, Florida school shooting. And since then, he has been dedicated and devoted his life to building school safety plans. He's also the chief safety officer for Byrna and helped craft the Byrna Shield backpack body armor, which Don and I have and all of our children have. Thank you, Andy, for joining me on the program.
Oh, thanks for having me on, Kim. It's very important message when things like this happen to get out to your listeners and to parents. And just watching your intro, because I'm watching it, and gets me emotional and angry at the same time. So where do you want to start? There's so many things that I saw on your intro that I'd love to comment on.
Yeah, and it makes me emotional and upset as well. And when this happened, the first thing I did was I thought about you and I thought about Meadow. I know this must be so tough for you, having gone through what no parent, no human being should ever have to go through in the loss of a child. You've turned that, pain into strength. But to see something like this happen again, what were the thoughts, the emotions that were going through you at the time?
Well, I'd like to start on the first video you showed me. I'm a tough guy, Kim, and I actually broke down the first time I saw that the police entered a school and with their body camera, because with Meadow, they didn't have that type of response. They hid behind a wall.
Exactly.
So watching those officers respond like that, they did an amazing job. They did what they signed on to do and what they trained for every day, and they were heroic. But one thing that everyone's not bringing up, that I'm going to bring up, is it took the police 14 minutes to respond. And from that is just, for me, it's not their fault, but it's unacceptable in a mass shooting. When my daughter was murdered, the whole shooting took 7 minutes. So it just shows you that you need police or trained armed teachers at the location to be able to respond within minutes. Not 14 minutes. We're very fortunate that there wasn't a much higher body count in Nashville. But that just shows you we need police and trained personnel in the schools to respond immediately, because seconds matter.
It's really true, and I thought about that too with Parkland because it was so heartbreaking. And I know I was, anchoring and working at Fox, at the time, and it was just such an upsetting story. We spent a tremendous amount of time talking about it on our show, as you know. And to me, it's such an obvious thing that, one, you need people properly trained and they need to know how to respond to a school shooting. There's actually simulators that I've run through and used. My friend Sean Reyes is the Attorney General of Utah, and I was able to go through that training and show and actually use that simulated machine. And it's incredible when law enforcement has that opportunity to be able to do that, one, to respond, two, having the courage to run in and not hesitate when you have an opportunity to save a child's life. And I just don't even want to know somebody that would not run in and actually help, because seconds do matter.
Yes, and in Florida I went through that program too. They have that simulator. That was crushing for me too, going through a school shooting on that simulator. But I'd like to bring up your next point, the video of that Democrat congressman in D.C. going at Thomas Massey. It's a joke, and it just shows you that Democrats, I'm going to answer your question. Democrats are very simple-minded people, and it's very simple for them just to say, let's blame it on gun control, okay? Because then they don't have to look into anything that happened. So I'm going to give a big plug right now to my friend, he's senator now. He was Governor Rick Scott. I'm going to tell you what, everybody in the country should follow what Rick did after Parkland, and it made a tremendous difference. So Rick, after the shooting, Rick put together the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Safety Commission, okay? He got sheriffs from around the state, DAs, senators, state senators, House reps, parents, lawyers, and he put together, and mental health counselors, and he put together this commission that met every few months, okay, together, and they started from the shooter, when the shooter went to nursery school. That's how far back they went, to see what went wrong and what led up to that shooting. And they made changes in Florida from that. They made extremely unbelievable changes in Florida that made our schools safer. So they dissected, they found out the failures, they passed bills to make our children safer in Florida. They hardened the schools, they put more money into mental health counselors. Like in Florida now, in the schools, every school has a perimeter fence around it. You're not going up to a school in Florida. There's metal doors. There's single point of entries. There's school security at every single school. There's one deputy per 500 students in Florida. Okay? And this is because of Rick Scott and working with Rick, what we accomplished in Florida. And I'm so proud of Rick. I put a call into him yesterday just to tell him, because look, I feel like I'm a broken record sometimes, Kim, talking to.
Yes.
It's on the parents too. So Uvalde, Texas had a mass shooting in May 2018 in Santa Fe. 10 people were killed. Now you fast forward to Uvalde in Texas, there was no changes made. They didn't harden that school. They went into a side door. And also I want to bring up, I sent you President Trump.
Yes.
When I met with President Trump in the White House, I made suggestions to the president at the time, and he goes, Andy, I like that idea. I'm going to put together a federal school safety commission, and we're going to make a difference. You and I, we're going to work together. So the president worked really hard on it. He had DeVoe, she was on it, and his other secretaries, and he put together a commission, and they had over 100 recommendations, the president. And if these schools would be following those recommendations that President Trump had put in, these kids, I hate to say it, but these kids would be alive today if they would read and they just would have followed those recommendations and guidelines. But the problem is every parent and these schools think that it can't happen to them, and then it happens, and it's just horrible. It's horrific, because I feel for those parents. But these shootings are avoidable, Kim.
They really are. They're avoidable. They're preventable. And I remember when you went to the White House and met with the president, and you saw the president with me not too long ago at Mar-a-Lago, but you haven't stopped. Every single day you have honored your daughter's life and her memory. And I think it is incredible what she has, in a father with you, that she has someone who fought for her legacy and fought for her to help save other people's children. And your son as well has been, incredible. But I want you to talk to the parents, to the people, to the folks out there that are watching this program right now about what you have done, putting together these real solutions to secure schools, and take us through your school safety plan.
One of the biggest school safety plans that I could suggest to parents is to get involved locally at your local level. I tell all these parents, before you're a Democrat or a Republican, you're a parent. And you have to get involved in the school. You have to know that school is safe. When you have a child, when they're first learning to ride a bike, they put a helmet on them.
Right.
They want to make sure they're safe. They hire a babysitter. They want to check their references. They want to know they're safe. You got to do the same thing with your children's school. When you send your child to a school, you have to know that school takes security, at the utmost level. They have armed guards. They have single point of entries. You got to get involved locally and make sure and demand that you have school resource officers, or in Florida, there's school districts that allow teachers or coaches, veterans could sign up for these programs. They go through a 140-hour course, and they're able to carry in the schools in Florida. So parents, and in Florida, Kim, we flipped 5 major school districts from liberal to conservatives, which was amazing. Miami-Dade flipped, Pasco.
It's incredible.
Polk County, they flipped from left to right because of the parents. The parents are getting involved, and they have the power to make change and make their schools safer.
You're absolutely right. It's so important what you said to tie in that nexus about how elections can save children's lives, literally. Because if you can get people in and start even at the school board level, go to those meetings, run for those offices, flip those counties like we did here in Florida, you can implement these life-saving measures that you have discussed. And I'm so frustrated because it's so obvious. This is all so preventable. I want to scream. I'm so angry about this. As a mother, as a former educator, that you have to worry so much about your child going to school. In some of these schools across this country where they don't have these measures implemented, you have to say, is this the last morning that I'm going to be able to make my child mini pancakes? Like, how crazy is this?
And parents have options. Florida has school choice now, which is incredible.
It's another important point.
Have options. Or you speak up. You get everybody involved in your community, and you demand actions. What Florida also did, which is saving lives, because I'm friends with a bunch of sheriffs in Florida, they put together their risk protection orders with due process. There's not one pro-Second Amendment person out there that wants to see a mentally ill person be able to have access to firearms. And in Florida, we're making a difference. I know I just had a conversation with a sheriff. Those laws are already in place to get in front of a psychiatrist and a judge and have that put on their background that they're a danger to themselves and to others. If more counties and states would follow those, with due process, you'd eliminate so many mass shootings. Because, a bunch of these mass shootings that came out, like this one in Nashville, they were on mental health counselors who never reported them. And I'm sure if they dissect those records, you're going to find that this person shouldn't have access to a firearm. And that happens all the time, Kim.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. So I want to talk about some of the measures because I think it's important. It's interesting because they should be going through these drills at school so children are prepared, right? They understand, when I grew up and I lived in San Francisco and went to school there, we had earthquake drills. We had to learn what to do in the event of an earthquake, that we needed to, duck and cover, that we need the positioning that we needed to be in, that we needed to crawl, go under our desk, or for your home to go under dining table, or how to protect ourselves, to save a life, to protect children. This should be being done in every school in this country to be able to have drills and talk to the kids. And I know they do it in some, but not in all, to understand what to do. And what is also your best advice for parents out there to talk to their children about this, about what they should do if they find themselves in a situation with an active shooter?
Well, first of all, we those shields that I sent you
Yes.
would be a wonderful extra for parents to give to their kids. They could go to Byrna.com, BYRNA.com, and they could see our shields that could go in a computer case or a backpack, and they could just hold it with them. You know, it's terrible that we have to talk about these things, but it's happening. So, and it could happen anywhere, on a bus, in a mall.
Right.
These shields weigh under a pound, and you can pick it up. They're about $100 on our website, and it could be in your child's backpack. We just did a big event in Bradford County in Florida. I really try and give law enforcement the tools to better respond when there is an active shooter drill. So, and we also have this ballistic backpack that I donated to the sheriff's department in Bradford. It's able to carry a folded AR inside. So as you always hear about law enforcement, when there's an active shooter, they have to run to their car to get their rifle, or they have to go to a school locker. Well, in Bradford County, they carry them, and other counties, they carry the folded rifle right on their backpack, and they don't have to waste time. It comes with a handle. They pick it right up with one hand, and they're able to go right at the shooter right then and there without wasting time, for seconds, lives. And I'm telling you, what happened in Nashville, we're going to find out that those teachers did have some training, because there would have been so many more casualties in that 14 minutes if those teachers didn't know what to do in those classrooms.
Well, that's also important, as well as, teacher education. I'm just curious your personal opinion too about, there's varying people say, well, we need to have, teachers armed, or, I'm really about having, security, like trained, whether it's retired law enforcement, et cetera, and making sure they have the training and the resources, like you're saying, to be able to, grab that, like the backpacks with the foldable ARs, et cetera. Talk to me more about that.
Sure. What was interesting, when I donated in Bradford County, I donated those backpacks with the rifles. I got a call from the sheriff there, Gordon Smith, and he asked, the superintendent of those schools asked if I could get him a rifle and a backpack also. So I thought that was interesting. I said, of course. So the superintendent in Bradford has that backpack and a rifle. But getting back to your question about in Florida, certain districts, what I like about it, it's the teachers don't have to. It's if they want to volunteer and
Exactly.
go through that program. They're not forcing anybody to do it.
Exactly.
And it's a 140-hour course. Okay, it's not like they go for the weekend and then Monday they're able to walk around with a pistol at the school. And the course in Florida holds, whoever goes through the Guardian course, it holds their accuracy. At the end of the test, they test for accuracy, and they're held to a higher standard than the regular deputies when they shoot. So, like in Parkland, they had coaches running in. It's named after one of the coaches. His name was Aaron Feist. So they named it the Aaron Feist Guardian Program. And that's in Florida. Some districts, depending on the districts, are allowing the teachers to go through the program. Some districts aren't. But what they're given jobs, a lot of veterans, it's a great way to hire veterans, put them in the schools. They're going to go towards that gunfire. I guarantee you these veterans care about our children, and it's a way to give them jobs and make them feel good about themselves.
Absolutely. I love the idea with veterans. I love the idea with, retired law enforcement. Perhaps they, you're still young, want to get in there and help out and protect children. It's a great way to have a new career, another chapter, in your life. And I also like the idea about, canines in the schools as well.
Yeah, we've done, I've donated a couple of dogs for gun detection. And the kids really like it. They like having the dogs there. And security is done in layers. The more you have, the safer the school's going to have. I'm going to give you a statistic. There hasn't been one attack on a school in this country where teachers are trained to carry firearms. There hasn't been one since they allowed teachers in any state. So that's something that parents could think about. And like I said, it's on the parents. You have to go check on your school. Like I tell them also, I say, drop your child off at the school, okay? Go out, go get a cup of coffee, go to your Starbucks, go back to the school and see if you can get into the school. Go knock on a door. Go see if there's doors open. You know, they're your children, you
It's
know.
a great idea.
It's 2023 now. We can't help, we can't stop evil. We're not going to remove every gun from the country, but we can come up with real solutions to protect our children at the schools like we did after 9/11. Like I say, you can't get on a plane with a bottled water, but a nut could go into a school in Nashville with two rifles and a handgun, right? There's something not right there. So we need to make the changes. We need to do real solutions, okay? Real solutions like we did in Florida. Other states need to follow what Rick Scott did and make our children safer.
Well, God bless you, Andy Pollack, and God bless Rick Scott, who showed the leadership and the courage here in Florida to get that done, saving lives, literally. Now let's do this, for the rest of the country so that we never have to hear about a school shooting with a child killed again. That's the goal, and we shouldn't stop till we make it happen. But God bless you, Andy. I really genuinely appreciate your friendship and your courage, and as I said, you honor your daughter so well.
Well, thanks so much for having me on, Kim. Anytime, it's such an important message.
Absolutely. God bless. Okay. And we will continue to pray for your family, Andy, and for the families in Nashville and any family who has suffered the worst of all tragedies. The solutions are there, and it's time to secure our schools and to harden these soft targets. Single points of entry, armed resource officers. There are answers right in front of us, and we have much more to come up on all of this. We have retired NYPD Detective Pat Brosnan. He's going to be joining us to take us through the process of investigating a mass shooting. He's one of the best in the business, and I have had the pleasure to know him and have him on my shows over the past probably 20 years. But first, I want to say something. I want to take a word from, Patriot Health, providing access to affordable dental and health-related care for everyone. Take a listen and watch. Kimberly Guilfoyle. In appreciation for your continued support of our mission to put America first, we now offer Patriot Care, a non-insurance healthcare benefit program for you and your family for less than 90 cents per day. Benefits include 24/7 access to telemedicine, dental and vision discounts. It also includes global travel assistance. Sign up below, and together we can put your health and America first. All right, and now authorities are continuing to investigate the exact motive of shooter Audrey Hale and her behavior and movements in the days leading up to the killings. Officials have confirmed that the female shooter was being treated for an unspecified emotional disorder, as well as used male pronouns. Investigators say that she had writings that contained maps of the school, including points of entry. And a former classmate told ABC News that she had been posting about depression in the last couple of weeks. So those are just the facts. Now, here to explain more, retired NYPD detective and CEO of Brosnan Risk Consultants, Pat Brosnan. Thank you so much for being on the program. Pat, it's great to be reunited.
The pleasure's mine, Kimberly. Believe it or not, it's pretty close to 20 years. I was with you the very first night, your very first show in New York at 10 p.m. Down at Fox, and I think it was the lineup.
Yes, it was. Exactly. Yeah. Now, I know, Pat, these are tough circumstances to, come on to talk about, because we both have seen too many of these cases, having covered too many of them, and it's heartbreaking each and every time. You heard from our great guest, Andrew Pollack, who's been very proactive to do something about it. You spent your life investigating, violent crime, mass shootings. You've been on the scene for situations exactly like this. Take us through the process here of what goes down when you hear the report that there is an active shooter and something at a school like this.
So an entire sequence of events occur, Kimberly, as you well know, as a former prosecutor, but oftentimes some of the elements of the machine are unknown because they're operating in the dark and they operate quietly. So you have the officers, the detectives, the federal agents, the ATF folks on the scene. They're establishing, first of all, is there more than one? Always is there another person or persons involved? There's always the containment. Has the threat been completely eliminated? But operating contemporaneously with that is an entire machinery that's identifying not only who the individual is, the shooter, if there's one person, but trying to understand what I call the story, connecting the dots on the story. And it's difficult. And if you recall, and I'm certain that you do, we never got to the story. We never got to the motive in Mandalay Bay, where 58 teenagers were murdered at a concert. We never understood. It was never known why he did it. So you don't always have the luxury of a full comprehension of what the motivation was, as much as you try and as much as the entire team tries. But what it comes down to, I always use the analogy of peeling back an onion. We want to get to the piece of the onion that no one eats. We want to get all the layers of the onion that's identifying everything that you hear ad nauseum, all the social media, who they sat with, who they talked with, who that person talked with, who they're connected with, text in and out. I'm always particularly curious on search engines. I like to know what they were searching on in the prior 30 or 60 days. I always look at that as a treasure trove of data that helps to inform other investigative steps that are ancillary to that. So oftentimes you'll develop, Kim, a material fact in the course of your investigation that will cause you to pivot and go down other doors and open other doors, go down other avenues, investigative avenues that you would not have otherwise. So it's this complex, evolving, somewhat convoluted, but multi-team endeavor, with the whole intent being always to understand the story. And what does the story mean? Well, you want to understand why it happened, what motivated that individual or individuals, in this case, an individual, to commit such a heinous and completely evil act. And hopefully we have the luxury of knowing that. There is a manifesto I'm advised that has been published. I don't personally know of any of the facts contained in that, or any of the rantings, or whatever you might characterize them as in terms of the published narrative. I'm reasonably certain that that will also open other investigative doors. And again, connecting all the dots through a range of investigative techniques, including ear witness accounts relative to what this individual may have shared during the course of freewheeling narratives with other folks days before, weeks before. And again, it's all part of the totality of the evidence in constructing, again, the story.
The story, the profile, what was the motivations, behind it. But this we know was a hate crime. That's what I call it as a former prosecutor who has prosecuted hate crimes, that this individual had, a problem with Christian, conservatives. And we have the situation here with the school. And it's remarkable to me that apparently getting counseling or talking to the pastor, and the poor pastor's daughter was murdered. I mean, the whole thing is just, it's so outrageous and so tragic and so upsetting. But what frustrates me is when then they don't want to let the public know the rest of the facts or the evidence. They started taking down the person's, profile, pictures, etc., to try to conceal the stuff, to hide it from the public. This way, it's not. And then they say, well, it's an ongoing investigation. Well, we know who did it. The person is, DOA right there on the scene, was killed by these brave, courageous police officers who acted so quickly, so rapidly to eliminate the threat. And, but yet the public can't find out the rest of this information. Tell us why that is, when law enforcement will say that, but I don't see, it's not an open, investigation per se here. It's not a whodunit.
No, absolutely. It's maddening, Kimberly. And to your point, Officer Engelbert and his partner, textbook example of unwavering bravery. I've seen the tape from both, running toward the gunfire, as they were trained to do, and as they did. Extremely commendable, excellent job in terms of terminating the threat. But the suppression, in my view, and I think it is nothing short of suppression of material facts that have been established that continue to frame out the story, help to assist with the motivation, help to identify who this individual is or was, and in fact, who they may be connected with, I think is central to understanding. Let's start off with I'm not a big believer in coincidences.
Right.
I'm not a big believer. No, 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 no. I'm doing this way too long.
Exactly.
The fact that Pastor Scruggs' beautiful, beautiful daughter was one of the victims is beyond sad, but not to be discounted in terms of the broader investigation and trying to establish linkage or interconnectivity between the shooter, the deceased, the bad guy, and the fact of who his victims turned out to be, and what that means in terms of motivation. Was it part of a broader strategy or a broader twisted and evil plan? And I think there was sufficient ancillary evidence and sufficient material fact as it relates to the relationship with Scruggs and some counseling that is known and proven to be true, to begin to compile a theory that's plausible, that this may in fact, very likely in fact, may have been the path of destruction that she developed and executed on.
Yeah, and then this is, a lot of people have been asking me this question. I want you to discuss it for us, which is, why can't, they get, like, if this person was seeing a doctor, can we find out what medication they were taking? Were they doing hormone therapy? What was the mental disorder here or problem or, mental issue the person was having? Because people are like, well, why is there a privilege, etc.? Can't we get that information? What authority does law enforcement have, Pat, to obtain, medical records or to speak with the doctor? What will be like kind of the next steps in this investigation? How do they go about it?
As you well know, Counselor, from your years as a prosecutor, this is a very difficult hill to climb. I mean, there's a tremendous amount of protection of individuals' medical background, even as simple as the prescriptions they may or may not have been issued to them. In this case, I've read accounts of where Hale was a high-functioning autistic individual. Mm-hmm. I don't know how that's established in a material way, absent either direct or indirect statements or testimony or published record from a medical professional. But I imagine it's third-hand narrative. Could be very well from her parents. I don't know, but I concur. And it's no different than trying to get into someone's phone records once they lock it down. We had 14 killed in Northern California a few years back, and try as they might, it was impenetrable to get in and see who they'd been in communication with. Were they part of a broader conspiracy? This was the male and female. Northern Cal, I forget exactly where.
Yes.
I'm forgetting exactly where is because there's so many of them. You just can't keep track of these mass shootings. It's absolutely maddening, and it's disgusting. It really is. And the fact that they occur in schools. If you think about it, Kimberly, before Columbine, it was a rare, almost unheard of occasion to go into a school and shoot someone with a weapon, or to stab them, or to commit a murder or murders in a school. And it's become, I don't want to say commonplace, but we've become anesthetized to it as society, no question in my mind, totally. And it's just the way it is, the volume, the heinous nature of them, the number of victims, the extraordinary fallout behind it, which is unbelievable. I can only imagine the trauma associated with it. And I do know, because I've been at these scenes, and we protect a lot of schools. So, I mean, in my private business, we protect schools. So we're close to this and have been close to it for north of 20 years. So this is this is my wheelhouse. And I got to say, to your point with Andrew Pollack earlier, and I salute him. There's a terrific guy.
Wonderful person.
Unbelievable what he's doing. Unbelievable. God bless him, he's right. But the reality is there are solutions. There's no one definitive solution in my view. Not one definitive, but there's a series of partial solutions that will minimize the probability of reoccurrence. And if an occurrence should occur, and it can and it likely will, it will absolutely minimize the number of fatalities. And that's where it is. That's where it lives. That's where it's going to be. There's no one keystroke. There's no one magic bullet that can eliminate shootings. I mean, mass shootings are like great white sharks. They occur swiftly, they're terrifying, and they're sadly unstoppable.
It's just it's very difficult. But you know, as it relates though to the schools, Pat, you know, if you're brought in, say hypothetically, somebody calls you and they ask you to come in, you know, your team to make a school safe, to protect children, what are you going to tell that individual that they need to do? What do you recommend? What do you think is going to help, you know, to harden that target? Because schools are soft targets.
No, absolutely. We give them the hard facts. We give them what I call the brutal facts. We let them know that the probability of them being selected, while very minimal in the context of that there are hundreds of thousands of public and private schools across America. So any one school can easily not be dismissive, but be circumspect as it relates to the probability of them being the school. But we advise them that there are layered solutions, and it is layers of solutions that will, as I mentioned earlier, minimize the probability of successful entry. If in fact there is a successful entry, in this case, it didn't matter if the door was open, ajar, unlocked, she blew the locks out, no different than the animal up in Sandy Hook years back who just blew the door open with his semi-automatic weapon. So it's not a question of doors. There's artificial intelligence out there. We have absolutely vetted it. We have used it. We are fans of it. I'm not going to say who they are. You know, I'm not here making a commercial, but the fact is that it can identify weapons and it can discern between a long rifle and, say, an umbrella. It can identify with precision and clarity between, say, a stick or a baseball bat from being a long rifle. And that's a big deal. It goes right into a central command and it's affirmed or refuted by a set of human eyeballs. And all of it happens like this. Wow. But there's more. That's when they're crossing the parking lot. Man traps, we've put them in the best schools in the nation. We presently have them operational. Okay, man traps are fantastic. They're relatively cheap. They basically lock an individual, an intruder, into the beginning sections of the school. And that lock is automatic, both simultaneous and automatic. If there's an identification of a weapon, if a round, in this case, a round came out of the gun and blew the lock out, Hale would have been locked in. The door would have locked. He would have to shoot out another door. So you could say, well, he's got a lot of bullets, right, Pat? He could just keep shooting doors out if you keep man-trapping them. But what we're gaining, Kim, is time.
Exactly.
Time. Seconds equate to save lives.
And that's what Andrew said.
There's a radio car coming 500 miles an hour with the wheels up, with somebody like Kevin Engelbert in it, who's there to take this person out of their misery, and out of it he did. Perfect textbook shooting. Perfect. What a hero. I salute him. I commend him.
Oh, it was unbelievable just to see that. I think that was just educational in itself, and I hope inspirational to other officers, first responders out there that are so brave, put it on the line every day. Like, that's a textbook example of exactly how you should do it, and about actually having the courage to go in and not hang back like they saw, you know, at Parkland. God bless us, with poor Beto Pollock and all those beautiful, wonderful students that died. It's just so sad. So you're a fan, obviously, of that the man trap sounds great. How about canines? I like the canine situation in the schools. Yeah, I think it's fantastic. And kids love it. It makes them feel safe. It's also warm. It's like a nice thing psychologically. Children love dogs. So I think that's very positive. And then obviously training people. You heard Andrew talk about that if a teacher wants to carry, you know, a weapon, 140 hours of training and gun safety and education to be able to do that. Veterans, you like that idea, obviously, right? And retired law enforcement.
You know, the reality is, mathematically, Kim, there's not enough sworn police officers in the United States of America. Mm-hmm. Not enough to cover all the schools. Right. And that's if you didn't have a day job of working for a municipality as a sworn officer.
Yeah.
So the concept of having a sworn police officer working off duty or being assigned as a school resource officer is sadly a fallacy. It's just the math. The logistics don't support it. So we have to look at veterans. We have to look at man traps. We look at canines. We look at armed teachers. Mm-hmm. The bottom line is a good guy with a gun, bad guy with a gun. It's just the way it is. It's just the way it is. No gun. She had a lot. Hale had a lot of ammunition. A lot of ammunition. This could have been an exponentially worse. And completely horrific in its current state, but it could have been exponentially worse, lightning fast. Lightning fast. A lot of ammo, skills with a gun, skills with a long gun, handgun as well. This is a recipe for disaster that's beyond our ability to bear.
Yeah, and trying to get to, a vantage point to like shoot down, to pick off targets. I mean, the whole thing is just horrific. It is a miracle, truly, that they were able to respond that quickly and shut it down, end her miserable life as quickly as they were able to, or these casualties. It makes me so upset and nervous and stressed to just think what could have happened, in this situation. But that's why training is also so incredibly, important. But I think about it like, if you had anybody, armed in that school, being right there. I mean, people also talk about metal detectors, with that, for schools. Like, we're not trying to turn our schools into, prisons. I get that. But you know what? Like, what is the decision and what is the choice you would make if it could save your child's life and you could go back in time? What would you be advocating for? What would you be willing to do and to make certain was at your child's school if you could turn back time? That's really the question, Pat, isn't it?
1,000,000%, Kim. Reality is, in this scenario, in this instance, we were extremely fortunate that all the stars were in alignment in our favor. The officers got there as fast as humanly possible. They were available to be proximate to the school. They got there, they got in, they had intel, they heard the gunshots. You had the right officers there, which is, by the way, the vast majority.
Yes.
Putting part in this.
Let's be honest. Yeah, true.
Our show, we're not going to dignify that with any commentary. But the reality is, let's just say that it didn't work. They got into an accident, the responding car got into an accident because they're going there so fast. Jackknife, tractor trailer, anything, right? I've been in a lot of these pursuits to get to the scene as fast as humanly possible, and life intervenes, stuff intervenes. So to have an armed individual there, whether it's a trained military, a trained school instructor, a teacher at the school, personnel at the school, or off-duty officer, or active, retired off-duty officer, someone with a weapon who has proper training, make all the difference in the world between a completely disgusting and unbearable six souls were taken, and it could have been exponentially worse. I don't even want my mind to go where it could have went.
Yeah.
That amount of ammunition, kills with a gun, I mean, my skin crawls from it, my ears burn. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, and then targeting Christians, the hate crime, the whole thing is it's so outrageous and so sickening to me. But I'll tell you, if you're a shooter and you're planning these things out, which they do, and that school has armed guards in there, you're not going to that school. It's as simple as that.
That's right. And you want to know why? Because they're cowards. They're cowards. Was a coward.
Evil takes the path of least resistance.
They take themselves out the biggest coward's way, because there's always a chance, Kim, that they could be shot and survive in a wheelchair for the rest of their life, paralyzed from the eyebrows down.
Right.
There is always that chance, and we hope for that, because that'll teach a lesson. They're deterrent for you. It's specific in general, but the reality is they're enormous cowards. They're the biggest chumps on the planet to go shooting up kids. They don't want to get shot. Getting shot hurts. It hurts to get shot. They want to commit their filthy, disgusting, evil acts off themselves at their convenience, right? And then they're gone. So they see an armed guy outside. They see a truck that says armed. They see cameras and the words armed, the verbiage armed. And believe me, we do this. We protect over 1,000 locations in 45 states and 500 cities in the great United States of America. So I know from whence I speak. This is my wheelhouse. And every day we're trying to develop a broader deterrent factor to minimize the probability of an individual coming in and committing an attempted or completed violent crime in any of those 1,000 locations. And it's a sequence, I could go on all day. It's a sequence of layered strategies that we war game regularly that ultimately will make a bad guy or bad girl say, you know what, I'm not cool with that.
Right.
I'm not cool with going in there. I'm not gonna do that, because I don't want to get wounded and die. I don't want to get burned with a bullet, because bullets really hurt. And that's, I can't be convinced otherwise. They see guns, they're cowards, period.
Yeah, disgusting, evil. And you know what? They come to one of those schools that are on, they're going to shoot your ass. That's what's going to happen, okay? And they're going to be taken out. They're going to be killed like they deserve. So they won't go to a school like that. And that's why I'm mad, because every child deserves to go and get an education and not have to worry about getting shot by some evil asshole that's going there because the children aren't safe.
Like, Kim, my blood boils. It boils. These children are cut down. It's not even. It's so early in their life. It's almost incalculable, and because of this twisted demonic thinking, this madness that's ping ponging around in Hale's head, they suddenly are short shifted on an entire life. Everything from dating as a teenager, getting married, having children, living a life. All taken because of this disgusting sequence of events that led to the madness that ricocheted through her head to cause this crime to occur. And it's sickening. And we have to get better. We have to get better collectively as a nation in identifying ways, layers of partial solutions. If you start looking at a solution, you're going down the wrong road. I'd love to say it exists, and it kills me to say on national TV that it's not there, because that may in some way embolden, empower, liven a twisted mind to say, well, Brosnan said there's no solution, so let me just go sharpen up my guns and load up on ammo. But no. There's a conflagration, okay, of partial solutions, some of which I outlined, and there's others, and collectively, they bring it down from here, Kim, all the way down, and if nothing else, it buys us time, and every second that we buy is another life saved.
Absolutely.
And I won't even
God bless.
I won't touch Uvalde with a 10-foot stick. I'm not going to touch that one, but it's still a burning scar.
Absolutely.
Burning scar on law enforcement, by the way. And no one's a bigger law enforcement buff than me right here.
No, absolutely. Pat, I just want to say, thank you so much for being on this show. I really wanted to have you on. We've covered these cases, but I love that you have also devoted your life to solutions like Andrew Pollock. So I thank you, my friend, for doing that and fighting for children to be able to live their lives, to, grow old one day and have families and children of their own, and never stop looking for those solutions and ways that we can, protect them. And I'll tell you, I'm so sick of these politicians in DC wasting taxpayers' money on nonsense, okay, and not caring enough to spend the money to keep children safe. It's enough already. They need to focus on what matters and focus on saving and securing lives. We have no problem sending all kinds of dough over to Ukraine, but we can't make a child safe in school so that they can get an education?
It's beyond bizarre, Kim. It's beyond bizarre. And I mean, if it's not us, both public and private, and an alliance between public and private, who else is going to save these children? Honestly, so that they can grow up. Just want them to grow up, have a great life. And the reality is, we really have to get serious about it. Not just rhetoric, not just talking and expounding and going on and on about gun. Forget gun control. There's enough guns out there. If not another gun was ever manufactured from 12 noon today to the end of time, there's still 300 million out there, hidden in mailboxes, in holsters, in lock boxes, behind staircases, in the wheel wells of cars. They're out there.
You can make 3D guns, so let's just, get real.
Well, thank you.
All right. Well, you're the absolute best. God bless you. And we're looking forward to having you on again and again on this program. The band is back together here, so we'll look forward to having you as a regular on the program. You're always such a pleasure to talk to. Thank you so much, Pat.
Thank you, Tim, and I'm glad to be back with the band. I always love them.
Amazing. And much more coming up on the program, but we also want to take a moment to thank our brave sponsors like Goldco. Diversification is more important than ever before, and gold and silver can protect your retirement savings from inflation and dollar devaluation. You can roll over your 401k or your IRA into precious metals and safeguard your savings tax and penalty free. From precious metals, IRAs to direct purchases of gold and silver, Goldco has helped thousands of Americans diversify and protect their retirement savings. Go to kimsmetals.com. You can learn much more. They'll take you through the entire process. That's kimsmetals.com. And in closing tonight, in the aftermath of yet another sickening tragedy, it is long past due to build real, tangible solutions to reducing violence in our schools. You've heard it here today. Single points of entry, physical barriers, securing the perimeter, developing a school safety network and program. These are all elements that can be utilized to increase safety and to harden soft targets. And I'll be honest, banning guns or disarming law-abiding citizens isn't going to make anyone safer. It's just not going to prevent tragedies like this. Gun-free zones only advertise that a facility is vulnerable, that it is a soft target. And we can do so much better. And we can do it because our children deserve better. So we must continue to pray, please, for all the families who were victims of this awful tragedy, for those 6 beautiful souls that were lost. And we together can find real solutions so this doesn't keep happening over and over again. Thank you so much for joining us today, for caring about children, and for trying to be part of the solution, because here on Rumble, we will continue to follow this story and make sure that children's lives count and matter and are protected. And before we go, I'd like to also thank another one of our sponsors who makes this show possible. Okay, people who make the show possible so that I can talk to you, so that Don Jr. can talk to you, so that we're not canceled or censored for our viewpoints. And that's Patriot Mobile, America's only Christian conservative wireless provider. And with Patriot Mobile, you're going to put America first with every single call that you make, and while getting the same nationwide coverage as major carriers. Not only does Patriot Mobile provide you dependable wireless service at an affordable price, they also share your values, and they actually support you. Vote with your dollars and vote to support Patriot Mobile. For free activation, okay, get a good deal here, go to patriotmobile.com. Again, for free activation, that's patriotmobile.com. And in the meantime, be sure to follow me at Kimberly Guilfoyle here on Rumble and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. And also be sure to follow me across all platforms, Twitter, Truth Social, Facebook, and Instagram. And also you can hop on over right after this program to go over to locals.com and join me there. All right, so join Locals, Kim Guilfoyle, and we're gonna have a live Q&A. We can talk about what you thought about the show today, your opinions on this, and about school safety. You can also comment down below, tell me what you think, who you want to see interviewed, and what stories you're most interested in. I hope you have a wonderful and a blessed evening, and if you're a parent out there, give your child an extra hug and kiss tonight. God bless you guys. Thank you for being with me.